Events begin one sunny day. A young guy named Jacob brought a girl a love letter, but instead of reading it, she threw it away and left, because she had no feelings for him. The guys I knew standing behind me only scoffed at Jacob. They thought this girl was completely out of his league, and Jacob would never be able to win her over. There was one good reason for this. Jacob's financial situation was below average, and he was an unpromising guy, so girls did not want to waste their time on him. Now Jacob is 28 years old, and in all that time he has never been married, he has never even had a normal relationship, he has been rejected on countless blind dates, none of the girls could like him. But at the moment there was nothing to be done about it, so life goes on and you have to move on. But who would have thought that this day in Jacob's life would be his last? Everything happened in the middle of the day. The guy was riding his bike home as usual, and a truck came toward him, which was at a very high speed. Because the car is very heavy, it will not be able to stop quickly, which meant only one thing: Jacob is doomed. Of course, in this terrible bike versus truck accident, the guy could not survive. There was a lot of red liquid around. After the truck hit the guy, he crashed into a house, which caused the car to catch fire. After the tragedy, Jacob's soul flew into a newborn boy who was born in a small village. When the baby opened his eyes, he immediately saw his parents. As it turned out, Jacob completely remembers himself from his past life. A very real reincarnation took place. It's been 18 years. He sat and worked through spiritual practices. His task for today was to learn how to do the cultivation signal, but it's quite a difficult practice, so it doesn't work out right away. At first all were given quite easily, but it was so until the age of 16. From this age, children have to learn practices of a more complex level. Not everyone can do it the first time reality falls out. And in another 2 years the level will warm even higher. In his 18 years, Jacob was stuck on one very difficult task, and could not pass it in any way. Jacob's main task is to become the best at it, but it's very difficult, and not at all like how it's described in the books. In reality, everything is much more complicated. At the moment the best in the village is the master of the caves named William. In fact, he is not even at the highest level, but still the best of us and runs 30,000 residents. Popularly he is known as the Immortal Master. Jacob's goal was to become like him, or even better, but there was one problem. It was his brother, whose name was Oscar, who had always followed all the traditions. Since the boy turned 18, he was supposed to find a bride with whom he would live a long and happy life. His brother could not ignore such an event, so he took his responsibility and organized a celebration. Everything was very solemn: the ceremony, the live music. The brother followed all the rules. In fact, if Oscar hadn't remembered, Jacob wouldn't have known it was his wedding day. It was the only wife a guy had ever had in his 2 lives, and even though they were married almost involuntarily, Jacob felt good about it. The girl was very shy and sweet. She seemed a little tense at first glance, and I needed to talk to her a little to loosen her up. Jacob said that this place was her home now, and she was a full member of the family, also asking what level she was on. In the end it turned out to be a couple at about the same levels. Now they could explore everything together. Go to your goal. In fact, no matter how hard the guy tried, the girl did not stop being shy, uncomfortable. Even the offer of a good meal did not improve the situation in any way. After that, Jacob came to ask directly, "What is going on with Linda?" It seemed to her that Jacob didn't read the attraction, because it was their wedding night, and they were only talking. Linda even dressed especially for this event. She was sad that the guy didn't pay attention to it, because she had tried very hard for him. Since Jacob had never had a relationship, much less a marriage, he didn't understand his wife's hint, so he suggested she just go to bed. The boy woke up to the screams of children trying to wake him up, calling him their daddy, for girls, begging him not to leave his life. Jacob looked noticeably older. He even had a beard. He couldn't understand what was happening to him yet. When the children saw their father awake, they ran to hug him. Jacob was still trying to figure out what was going on, and some kind of statistics window appeared in front of him, where you could see the man's name, his level, how many lives he had lived, and so on. When he got a little further, the guy saw that his life ended at 30, so he thought he had already left life. At 30, the guy should have turned 22 at least, so it didn't look like it was true. At this point in real life, it was like Jacob was asleep. Linda was trying to wake him up and figure out what happened to him. But eventually the guy woke up at age 30 and said he was fine, he just needed to get some rest. The children said their father scared them badly because he wasn't breathing. Jacob, at this point, was just beginning to realize that his son, 2 daughters, and wife were standing in front of him, the youngest running up to him first, and the oldest was probably the taller one. Why Jacob asked his son to get the rest of his siblings ready for bed, and to leave them alone with his mother so they could talk. The son kindly agreed, and wished his father a good night's rest, then left the room. Jacob told Linda that they needed to talk, but that the information might be shocking. The girl replied that she was ready to hear it, and help in any way she could. The guy admitted that there was something wrong with his head. The only memories he had were of the period before his marriage to Linda, and before their marriage. The guy clearly remembered what he had said to his wife that night, but everything after that he still could not remember. Linda was really shocked. This information really scared her. The guy remembered exactly how they had first talked about levels, about his brother, and then the girl had asked if Jacob didn't think she was attractive. That cheered the girl up a little, because if it had been another day earlier, Jacob wouldn't have been able to remember his wife at all. But the most unpleasant thing was that Michael doesn't remember his children, doesn't know their names or how old they are. It made the girl laugh a little, because Jacob was already 30 years old and he was acting like a child. According to his senses, Jacob fell asleep at 18 and woke up at 30, so what should he do now? How to get his memory back? Since the guy was still not feeling well, Linda suggested he continue to rest and discuss it in more detail tomorrow. The next morning came. Jacob still couldn't believe that he had woken up as a 30-year-old man with a grown-up wife and children. Jacob looked at the system and saw what brought him here, but as it turned out he could only stay here for 1/10 of his maximum lifespan, which means he could stay here for 8 more years. Jacob's body doesn't feel like a 30-year-old, it's more energetic, and all the guy's abilities have obviously been carried over from real life. This place looked practically like a beta test. Unfortunately, the abilities that Jacob acquires here he probably won't be able to take with him and use them for his own selfish purposes. Jacob's plan today was to get to know his children better, and he had already learned their names, so he gathered them outside to spend time with them. The older son's name was Alex, the second son Danielle, and the younger daughter Diana. If the guy has more children, he can go to the journey to the West Casting. Since Jacob didn't even know what to talk to them about, he decided to show the kids the bamboo grove. But the thing is that they have already seen it many times since they have lived here a long time, and Jacob himself planted it, just he doesn't remember it. The children also told me that Jacob's bamboo and woodworking skills were unsurpassed. Even the leader had placed an order for some pieces. Jacob was very excited about this information, and he promised his son Daniel to make a bamboo dragonfly. Daniel then showed Jacob's workshop, where he spends a lot of time making beautiful crafts. Jacob learned bamboo craft from his grandfather, and woodcraft from his father was a past life. Probably only because of these skills, the guy managed to live well here for the past 20 years. At the dinner table, Linda told me that there are still many people in the division discussing whether to have a 4th and 5th child forcibly, for the good of the local government to stop them. When Linda married, she was already in a state of meditative fetal visualization. Within 2 days of her wedding, she had already advanced to a period of true energy, which was a big deal in our village. 2 years ago, she had advanced to a period called the true element. Even the village headman had to punch Linda in the face. If not for her, we might have had to have children still. At 22, the girl went from prenatal breathing to the true element. And in that short period of time, Linda managed to have as many as 3 children. The girl was amazing, how she managed to master this whole culture so quickly. In the future, The only thing we can take away from this is experience. We have to have a long-term vision and look 20 years ahead. We just have to seize our future ahead of time. Linda was in complete agreement with what Jacob had said, and she supported him. The boy was extremely curious about what else had happened during those 20 years, so he asked his wife to continue the story. Linda agreed and continued the story. Legend has it that about 7 or 8 years ago, when a girl was poisoned at her mother's house, she turned off the road into the woods south of the village. She came across a tree called Acer triflorum. The spiritual fruit on this tree can improve cultivation. However, this fruit is barren during the true element, so she had to transplant this tree. This evening, Jacob and his wife, Linda, were cooking a delicious family dinner, but he couldn't get out of his mind today about the tree that had been transplanted. When a practitioner reaches the age of cultivation and his activity is good, he will be allowed to eat 1 or 2 spiritual fruits. Jacob spent time with his wife and couldn't be happier. His eyes just sewed as he looked at her. It still seemed to the boy that they were newlyweds and just married, but in spite of that he quickly got used to the rhythm of the elderly couple's life, and he liked it very much. Linda was very pleased to hear such words from her husband. That night Jacob could not sleep. Each time, he enters a state of tranquility, tuning his mind, thereby allowing it to calm naturally. It's as if the body becomes empty. Only the true energy cultivated through alchemical practice can move within the body. Linda said that in the 8th year of his marriage, Jacob entered a state of visualization, but stuck with it until he went through demonic unhappiness. Today was the auspicious day when people were given the magic fruit. Jacob looked at it and could not believe that he had seen this magic tree. After the ceremony, the family gathered at the dining room table for a delicious meal and to discuss today's event. Linda was telling Jacob and the children another story about the magic tree. The girl noticed that Jacob wasn't arguing himself after losing his memory, so right at the table she decided to ask him if he was okay. The guy replied that he was fine. He just wanted his family to have a better life as soon as possible and not have to deny themselves anything. Linda encouraged him and told him that they were doing pretty well, so he didn't have to worry about it too much. When Jacob started practicing a lot and became obsessed, Linda began to worry about him a lot. It was certainly a good thing that the boy had started practicing hard, but she was still very worried about him, because they could survive the hard times, but it would be much harder to survive another day of accidents related to Jacob. The guy asked his wife not to worry, because he has common sense. During another of his meditations, he found what he had been looking for. In his joy, the guy opens his eyes and runs to his wife. He wakes her up and tells her that he's found what he's been looking for. Because the girl had just woken up, she couldn't understand what was going on, but then she congratulated the guy and said he was great. 2 years later, Linda was doing her laundry in a mountain stream, and there she talked to a woman and told her what a great achievement her husband had made. She congratulated her and told her that he had made it pretty quickly, which is very rare. Then the woman asked how Jacob's brother was doing. Linda replied that it was business as usual, and that nothing had changed drastically. There were 2 other women at the river who had also come to do the laundry. They overheard Linda talking to some woman and said that there was nothing wrong with what Jacob's brother was doing, unlike Linda's husband who only practiced and drank every day. Then they began to tell some more gossip, but Linda did not respond to it. But the woman who spoke directly to Linda, on the contrary, only praised her husband, for he had a very good sense of life and romance, which is wonderful. Then Jacob himself came to the river and shouted to his wife that he had prepared food for her. The girl was very happy about it, smiled and said she was on her way. 4 more years went by. Today is the day when the eldest son is getting married. The boy warned that as of today the preparations begin, and the parents need to rest so that tomorrow they will be full of energy. Linda was very excited about this event, and told her son to go get ready for the wedding. Jacob didn't look very cheerful at this point. It was rather strange. Linda wondered why Jacob looked so bad, as if he had lost his soul. Jacob replied that time flies. 8 years flew by in the blink of an eye. Linda wondered if Jacob felt springtime melancholy as he grew older. Jacob didn't answer that question. Linda got up and went to him asking, "Is there anything you're not telling me?" Jacob looked at her in love, pulled her to him and hugged her, then told her that he loved her very much. Then the long dream ended, and when he opened his eyes he was young again, lying with his wife Linda, whom he had married today. When Jacob woke up, he didn't wake his wife, just lay beside her and waited for her to wake up. Linda saw very much that Jacob was already awake at this early hour. The guy hugged his wife and said that he usually always woke up early, and wouldn't mind if Linda fell asleep for a while longer. So they did. Jacob got out of bed and put on his casual clothes. Then he lit a scented candle and began his usual meditation practice. After reviewing the system, he saw that his level of cultivation had not changed, but his techniques and spells had greatly improved. Everything happened just as he thought it would. After 8 years of cultivation in the future, the guy would finally reach the 3rd level of thunder. During meditation, the guy tried cultivation, but he was told that he had already done it before he reached the state of enlightenment. This time he just needed to gain some understanding. In order for this to work, it was necessary to make repeated time travel. As it turned out, in addition to the basic process, at least one of the suggested requirements had to be met. Jacob noticed a new process in himself, this inner reflection, and the inner consumption of energy, which seems to be the process of cultivation. The boy wondered what he should do now, how he should go on. Jacob remembered a guy who could help him with his task. But the problem is that he's still in the fetal breathing phase. He won't get to the inner energy until September. Rumor has it that after he discovered internal energy, he took some guy's life and then went on to the village. This guy is too sure of himself, and he's no good at intrigue, so a routine ambush should work without any problems. It was morning breakfast time, and the whole family was here. Jacob stated that since she was now married, it would be inconvenient to keep him in the same house with the whole family. William was shocked that Jacob had decided to bring the subject up so quickly. "My brother agreed with that," he said, and it was true that the newlyweds didn't feel comfortable living in the same yard with us. But there was no hurry yet. We had to choose a good place to live. If the family hadn't chosen a place yet, Jacob had a great option, the wild bamboo forest to the west, just like in the dream. My brother's wife said no one had been in that forest in a long time, and it was probably haunted. Jacob said it was just an overblown rumor and nothing more. When he was a kid he used to play in those woods, and he never met anyone like that. William supported Jacob's idea and said he would go to the market to talk to the craftsman about building a house, and to see if it could even be built there. Jacob said it wasn't necessary and he could handle everything himself. William didn't mind, and offered to stay here temporarily while the young man's house was being built. That same day, Jacob and his wife went to work at the bazaar. He was selling his woodwork to support himself and his family. Everyone here already knew him, so they greeted him and asked about his wife. Also, people were interested not only in his wife, but also in the product that Michael sold, because it was unique. Something similar was very difficult to find. Also, his regular customers, he made very nice discounts, so they were happy to choose various products. Also, a regular customer told one secret. Generally, low-level people were not allowed to leave the village. But high-level experts over the sphere of inner energy could shuttle between villages and deal with people who kept small businesses. The woman also said that she has not much experience in this field and knows that not big trinkets don't cost much, but real quality furniture costs not bad money, so it is worth very serious focus on this business. The woman said it would be best to start a serious trade in their village, because she would be able to help the guy get ahead. Jacob thanked the woman for this good offer. Toward the end, the young couple considered arriving for today. Linda was very happy, because it turned out to be a pretty good sum, and Jacob was happy because his wife was happy. Then Jacob suggested that she sit down and soak her feet in water, because it helps a lot after a hard day's work. So she did, and they sat together and steamed their feet in the warm water. The boy asked if Linda was interested in cult immortality. The girl replied that she was very interested in it. Her life would be much better. But unfortunately, this skill is too difficult for her. Her abilities are not enough for it. But if she could do it, she wouldn't have to worry about food and clothes anymore. She would easily earn it all and have a lot of free time. The guy looked at her with a sincere smile and said that anything is possible, then pulled out a notebook from behind his back and said that the girl should start studying it. This would be her first step toward realizing her big dream. Then the guy asked if the girl had any problems or difficulties in her practice. I had to write down in it all my experiences and insights that might be useful for cultivation. But a person who practices cultivation requires a lot of money. I was not afraid to write down all of my experiences and insights that might be useful for cultivation in the future. The girl thanked the boy for the opportunity. But she asked Jacob to promise that he would put their family first. The guy replied that she didn't have to worry about that. Jacob thinks his wife is really good, because not every woman would want to continue practicing after marriage. The girl said she shouldn't judge others by her own standards. The next morning Jacob was already repairing the roof, because over time, it had fallen into disrepair. Linda asked him to be very careful, for it was very high up. Jacob said not to worry, just one more word of clay, and it would be done. After the work was finished, the young couple looked at the house together. Linda admired her husband very much, for he even knew how to build houses. Jacob replied that there was nothing difficult about it, and anyone could do it if they wanted to. Tonight will be the last dinner at his brother's house. After the move, the young couple will have to live on their own, but they have wanted to for a long time. Then the young couple decided to have a practice together. Even though Jacob's cultivation had not yet reached the state of visualization. And now the boy realized how many times he had truly rested. From now on, the guy could simulate 24 inputs in one session. With this kind of progress, it's only a matter of time before the reality of the visualization is achieved. Now the boy was remembering the current problems to be dealt with in the near future. The first is a dream to eat a magic fruit, the second is a dangerous man to trap, and so on. He was distracted when his wife got up and went to the table to write something in her new notebook. The girl said that she managed to achieve the same number of breaths as the person in the immersion stage. It was quite strange, because the couple always trained together, but the effect of the exercise is very different for everyone. Jacob couldn't understand Linda's ability to reach 24 breaths, when at the moment he himself could only reach 16. This really annoyed the boy, so much so that he wanted to cry. The thing was, Jacob had trained a lot more than Linda before they were married, and at the same time hadn't developed as fast. She made him feel useless in front of her. Linda noticed that the boy had become very pale and asked what was wrong with him, so she also wondered why there was a difference in their cultivation program when their views were not so different. The ability to cultivate is divided into two parts. The first is the ability to understand and the second is the ability to ground. In order to achieve success in cultivation, you need to thoroughly master both. Linda listened to him carefully and said she understood. Jacob promised himself that in the next month, his cultivation would reach a high level. That was his number one goal. In the evening, the young couple were already lying in bed. The girl said she would never go to the market to buy fish again because she had met her sister-in-law there, who said Linda had a big mouth and always bought fish. Jacob hugged Linda and told her not to take it personally, because she was the daughter-in-law, and she always had something to talk about, so if you want, buy all the fish you want. Then the young couple started talking about more important things. Someone told Linda that Jacob did not want to have children. Jacob replied that if he could achieve the goals he'd set for himself, he could put off having children for 24 years. He also asked what Linda thought about it. She answered that she already has children. This information frightened the guy. He couldn't even understand when Linda had time to make them. The girl could not understand why her husband was not happy about this news. And then still said that it was a happy occasion and he was okay with it. This kid, just starting out in life, he's 17 years away from adulthood, and Jacob will be a top-level wizard by now, so that's not a problem. The girl was alarmed by that answer, because she hadn't said she had a boy, and Jacob answered as if he knew him personally already. But the guy wasn't confused and made a joke about it, saying that he only assumed it was a boy. Then they hugged each other and looked forward to the future, how their son would grow up and maybe there would be more children. 1 month passed. Jacob was walking down the street, and he happened to come to a tree with magical fruit. A new crop had literally just appeared on it. Jacob didn't hesitate long to try to get at least one fruit for himself. But then he thought he could pick just about anything that weighed there while no one was looking, and he ended up picking a whole huge basket of magical fruit. Jacob was so sick and tired of not being able to raise his cultivation level that he even decided to do the deed. For the next 8 years, Jacob practiced many different practices, which then allowed him to walk in the snow and leave no footprints, to drive thousands of miles in a day without getting the slightest bit tired. When Jacob came home and showed his crop, Linda couldn't understand what it was at first. The boy explained that they were the same fruits from the magic tree. If you eat them, in the future, they will improve cultivation. The girl realized that it was actually the most real spiritual fruit, not the usual fruit. The guy gently covered her mouth and showed her to be quiet. Also, the guy said that it was not the fact that it was spiritual fruit, but it was necessary for those above the stage of the spiritual element. Also, when the guy harvested the whole crop, he deprived people of the opportunity to send that fruit overseas. This meant that cultivation would happen much later than Jacob's. Linda said she understood everything and would keep quiet. They ate some fruit, lit scented candles, and started meditating. The girl finished first again and ran to her notebook. She said that she had managed to get into a real state of meditation. Most likely the fruit was really working. In turn, the boy noticed that a few spiritual fruits gave him the opportunity to break through further. He got a lot more inner energy in him. The boy was very happy about this and said that he too had entered a real state of meditation. Linda was as happy for him as he was. It was a victory together. Now it seems that becoming a cultivation master is not hard enough, but more than realistic. The boy hugged his lover and told her to keep working hard. Jacob also remembered his goal of trapping one man. This man's name was Daniel. He was 38 years old, and he had already been elevated to internal energy by the end of September, and had been elevated to internal energy for 2 years. This guy was pretty talented, so if Jacob did something crazy, he could get hurt badly. Jacob had to create the perfect plan to take his life. Then the boy went to Daniel's house to set up a table for him, as he had requested. The guy did so, he was thanked for it, and the payment for the job done, left on his way out. The guy took the money, said he was waiting for him, and went on his way. On the way, he decided that this was the day, and he needed to take advantage of it. The boy ran to his brother's house. There, from the threshold, he was not exactly welcomed into the house. His brother's wife was practicing martial arts, and she was just in the middle of a training session. But it was all right, and no one got hurt after that. But that was not the end of the girl's training, and during her training she even said something, apparently sharing her feelings while doing the elements. At the end the girl jumped high in the direction of the guy and pointed her sword at him. After class, the girl asked Jacob if he realized that he could have accidentally lost his life by dropping in at the wrong time. The boy apologized for that, and said that he really had an urgent matter that couldn't be put off at all. The girl, with a very angry look on her face, asked him what the rush and early visit was all about. The guy said that when he delivered the table for Daniel, he noticed that there was something wrong with his eyes. They were red and frightening, as if he were about to go and take someone's life. Jacob said that he didn't even take any money for the job and ran away because he felt more and more in danger every second. The girl was angry that Jacob was talking a lot but not getting to the point, so she asked him to tell her what he wanted. The boy replied that when he returned he had noticed Danielle entering his house through the windows. Suddenly the girl jumps out of her seat and says that we're wasting too much time, we need to get there as soon as possible, because something bad could happen there. The girl took her sword with her, and together with Jacob they ran to break into the house. They broke through the door and burst into the building screaming, "Whatever you're up to, don't do it." Daniel turned around and asked who they were. As it turned out, the man had a small child on the table, and no one knew what he wanted to do to him in the dark room with no windows. The guys caught Daniel in a bad moment. He didn't even know what to do now. Then the baby started crying and the man figured out how to try to save his ass. He grabbed the child's leg and started threatening that his boys would touch him, but he would drop the child on the floor. The story is about a woman, Anna, who accidentally finds herself in a fictional world in which her tyrant husband has been very disrespectful to his wife. The girl is on her knees and convinces her husband Alex that she is only faithful to him. Also under the blade of the sword, the girl said that only Scarlet Armand could be compared to her husband. The guy looked down on the girl and did not let her rise from her knees. Anna's tears began to flow involuntarily from fear, but even so, she begged her husband to love her just as much. It's a world from a romantic fantasy called The Personal Life of a Tyrant. The castle looked quite impressive. Emperor Alex is the main character of the novel. He played the role of a tyrant who did very cruel things towards his wives and even his brothers. But soon the tyrant falls deeply in love with the female protagonist and becomes a very affectionate person. The boy became very obedient to her. At that time, only their assistants knew about the tyrant's personal life and kept this information secret. But if the tyrant becomes good only at the end of the novel, then what is the point of it at all? Just this thought made the girl start crying a lot. Why torture the people who are near him throughout the novel? Anna was 20 years old, and will probably pass away just like the original character in the novel, because she is now in the body of the female protagonist of this novel, Tyrant's wife. According to the story, the woman loves him very much, but Alex treats her very badly, and eventually, the girl walks out of her life, at the hands of Tyrant. This incident is supposed to happen in the middle of the story. Regardless, the girl was very lucky that she managed to enter this body only at the beginning of the story, which meant that she still had time to try to save herself. Anna was sure that she would leave this life only after this story was over. Alex begins to torment Anna, only at the moment when the main storyline of the novel begins. So there was still time to decide how to deal with the tyrant. A tyrant who has fallen in love for the first time in his life is indeed a real disaster. Alex is the youngest swordsman, and he is also the wisest man in this era of humanity. But what can it mean when he treats other people humanly and his wife suffers? The girl asked, why does His Majesty hold the title of the wisest man? At first she was reluctant to answer, but then she was told that few people had more knowledge than him. To put it another way, he is not so famous because he is a wise man. The girl's parents were also very cruel, for how could you send your daughter to such a man? No matter how cruel people were, how could they force their daughter to be engaged to a tyrant? Sometimes with tears in her eyes, the girl wonders if this is really her family. When the girl transitioned to a scarlet body, much to her delight, that body still retained the original scarlet memory. Her memory Alex was very cold. Alex bullied her a lot for days, and if he didn't like her behavior, he would lock her in her room for a whole night without water or food, and so on. This happened regularly. No matter how many times it happened, the girl was always very hurt. She didn't want that kind of life in a golden cage. When a girl does something useful at very important events, her boyfriend always ignores her, never praises her or thanks her for the work she has done. When Anna remembers this, she realizes that she is in an unhappy family. Today, Anna began to think about how she could leave the Duke's family. But before that, she had a big urgent matter that had to be solved as soon as possible. It was necessary to make sure that the engagement did not take place. The celebratory bouquet from the Emperor was to arrive in 10 days. This would be his first date as a bridegroom, and a sign of the full beginning of the storyline. Which means this will be the beginning of Anna's torment. Of course, this is not the moment of her downfall. But if all goes according to the storyline, that's what happened in the end. Now Anna needed to remember the tyrant. In the memory of this body, she did not yet know why she was in love with Alex, because it was not she who was in love with him. The main problem was that when the protagonist appeared, Anna would be gone from her life. That couldn't be allowed to happen. If a girl proposes to break off a relationship, she will most likely be deprived of her life. If she proposes to call off an engagement, she will most likely face the same outcome. These options certainly wouldn't work. At this rate, Anna's future fate could become a reality. We had to think of something as soon as possible. Then an idea occurred to the girl: try to get Alex to leave her. The engagement will end the moment the girl and the Emperor sign a magical contract. The contract must be broken either by the death of one of the parties or by the refusal of both parties to sign it. The girl was just obliged to make Alice fall out of love. As stated in the contract, the girl must have a certain meeting with him. And no matter how selfish he is, he must obey Anna's request. There are many different ways to get him to do it. Quite quickly the girl came up with the idea of playing crazy and waiting until Alex wants to leave her. She started crying and laughing very loudly at the same time in order to get the servants' attention and make them worry. The girl was doing it so loudly that the whole castle could hear. Day after day went by, but nothing changed. Very soon the bouquet from the groom for the engagement was to arrive. Today was the first day that Anna was treated very well. Despite the fact that Alex must take her life in the future, he considered himself a very kind man. She couldn't understand why he thought so. The phrase about Alex being a kind man made her laugh. For some reason, she couldn't remember why the previous owner of this body loved Alex. She was so distracted that the stylist thought there was something wrong with her and wanted to show her some help. The girl replied that there was nothing wrong with her, she was just thinking. This woman was the only one who managed to work with Anna. All the other stylists did not suit her. Now she had to bring the dress, and she asked Anna not to move. The girl dreamed that when she broke off this engagement she would be able to go away somewhere. But the big question was whether that would actually happen. The banquet was planned for the night, then why did she have to prepare for it during the day? Now she would have to walk around all day very dressed up. It was very inconvenient. When she looked in the mirror she realized how beautiful her body was. It could not be lost like that. Then Lucy came in and asked to try on an evening dress. The girl looked at it for a long time. Lucy was about to run out to get a new one, but Anna said she would try it on. When the girl put it on, even Lucy was shocked. She looked so beautiful that no man could resist her. The maid asked her if it was the right dress for her, for it was quite simple. The girl said it was completely fitting. The only thing she wanted was to embellish it a little with accessories. Lucy reiterated that these clothes were too plain for such an important banquet. Maybe she should wear something better. Everyone around began to think that Anna was crazy, because the evening was very important, and her clothes did not match it. Anna's plan began to work successfully, exactly the reaction she was expecting. Despite this condemnation among the servants, Anna thought that even when she dressed modestly, she still looked superb. In fact, Lucy did not much care to embellish Anna's dress. Anna went outside and met another maid who was clearly in no mood. She didn't even want to greet her. Then Lady Mary and Anna's husband Alex arrived unexpectedly under the castle. This came as a surprise. Of course, for such a big celebration, Anna's dress was too plain. Her image was madness. Didn't this rich family feel good? The girl got into their carriage and they rode together. The atmosphere inside was chilling. There were two other men sitting in the carriage with Anna. One of them had his eyes fixed on her. The man was very unhappy, and that pleased Anna. But she concealed it in every possible way. The girl looked so strange that the people around her thought she was sick. The guy who asked the question turned out to be Anna's half-brother. He was the only one who tried to help Anna when she was sentenced to be deprived of her life in the original story. When she passed away, it was her brother who found Anna and helped her move into his sister's body. When the girl woke up, she was in a serious condition and could not feel her arm. The doctors said they were very lucky, so even though she was conscious, they needed to keep her with the doctor and watch her for a while. When his brother saw his sister awake, he was shocked and agreed to leave her here, since she couldn't even speak yet. Her brother was special in Anna's eyes, so she didn't know how to answer him, whether to keep acting crazy or answer normally. In the end, she decided to just laugh and ask loudly what was going on. The girl decided not to separate from her plan and continued to show everyone that she was not normal. Her brother hinted that Anna's dress was not appropriate for the event. Anna pretended not to understand anything, and was surprised by such a question from her brother. And then the girl asked if this dress was not suitable for her. She thought she looked quite nice, and it didn't matter what holiday she was going to. After these words, my brother was stumped, and did not even know what to answer to his sister. She spoke very confidently. In the end, the brother said that the rumors that have been circulating turned out to be true. Anna really is crazy. Because of such a harsh response from her brother, Anna suggested that he no longer communicate with her, if he really thinks she is like that. Then the girl asked why her brother was so rude to her. At this point, Duke punched her fist hard. You said she was disgracing their family. Then he asked the girl to get out of the carriage and said she would not go to the party dressed like that. The girl in turn sat and waited for Duke to get even angrier. Anna said how embarrassing it could be, all the more so because of the dress. Even though she had bought many clothes for other days. This time she wanted to look modest, because she was tired of gorgeous dresses. Anna was very emotional. She told me that her brother had come in drunk yesterday. And that was the shame, not her dress. Moreover, she is sure that in the capital many people already know about it. Then she asked a tricky question. Doesn't anyone care about family prestige? The girl turned into the devil and kept shouting and laughing at the honor of their family. Anna called out in a whisper to her brother. He turned to her, with a calm face even after all her words. The girl wondered why he wasn't mad at her. Duke began to play the boss again. But suddenly a dark-haired lady with a fan in her hands joined the conversation. It was the incredibly lovely Duchess Milia. She called for an end to this senseless squabble. Milia became a romantic partner, just after Alex's ex-girlfriend left this life. As it turned out, the problem was that when they were engaged, they had a child. That child was Izar, who is Anna's brother. It was for this reason that Izar was older than Anna. As a victim, Izar understood Anna in many ways. So Izar never took his anger out on his sister Anna. Milia acted like a real duchess. She turned to Anna, asking her to give the Duke the floor. But Anna continued to behave inappropriately, and made it clear that she really was crazy. Though the Duchess was restrained and very confident, here, too, Anna was able to find vulnerabilities. She said that there was less to worry about for her son too. After all, sons come and go. And then she called the Duchess a madam. The Duchess was shocked, her face filled with consternation. Anna said with her usual smile that there was no need to worry, especially in case Milia wants to be called mother. Anna had an interesting thought, that it would be nice if her marriage was ruined because she was crazy, but it takes some more time. Anna suggested that everyone get some sleep and then continue to fight among themselves. Izar was surprised how it was possible to fall asleep so quickly. Anya began to dream a strange dream in which someone growled and cried. Immediately she realized that these sounds were coming from her. She saw a black-purple shadow. The girl was in shock. The carriage arrived at its destination. Anna quickly woke up and began to shriek that it was only a dream, and she needed to calm down. She thought she was too crazy to sleep. Suddenly, this dream she called her dream. But she didn't think she needed to worry about it. After all, she had plenty of other things to worry about. Anna arrived at the castle. It was time to meet her tyrant fiancé. There was a great salute on the castle grounds. The girl at the entrance to the castle was met by a servant. She was in a very tired state, barely standing on her feet. With the last of her strength, she pretended to be a sweet and cheerful girl. Anna asked for the doors to be opened to be let into the party. It turned out that she was too late. His Majesty is already inside. For this reason Anna cannot be allowed into the castle. Anna wanted to sneak onto the property secretly. After all, she believed there were no inhibitions for her. Just a few minutes later, Anna was at the entrance. She saw a beautiful hall and many people. There was a lot of delicious food, snacks, and a wide variety of drinks on the tables. The girl was simply delighted with the organization. Anna remembered Tyron's words that his birthday party would be much lower level than before. It was hard to imagine how lavish it had been last year. The invited people saw Lady Anne. Immediately gossip began to flow about Anna's appearance. The girl was immediately delighted, because her image was enough to draw attention to herself. A man could be seen on the horizon, with many women around him. The girls thought it was the emperor. But this man was blonde. And in the book we were described as an emperor with silver hair and violet eyes. It seems that the blonde man is not an emperor. Anna kept trying to find the emperor, but then she heard the voices of the invited ladies. They were saying about Anna that the rumors about her madness seemed to be true. The three ladies continued to gossip among themselves. But then Anna didn't come up. Anna really startled the girls and asked what happened. One of them asked about whether the rumors of her madness were true or not. Anna took her firmly by the shoulder and practically straightforwardly confirmed her madness, saying it was better not to mess with her, as she might take her life. The lady was in a stupor. She immediately ran off with her friends. There were as many as 50 people in the hall. No one really approached the girl. Everything was normal. Maybe it was because of her notoriety, and no one wanted to mingle with a crazy person. Anna came to this party to see the only person she needed. In the original novel it was written that the girl conquered the politeness of the tyrant, but not this time. At the moment Alex was just the man she needed and nothing more, so the girl held out her hand to him. Anna understood that she was not stupid, and it was very dangerous to fall in love with such a man. Passers-by, when they saw that the girl was going to the Duke, began to say her name and what family she was from, so that they would not let her in, because at the moment she was not a lot out of her mind. But this did not change anything and the girl quietly walked on. Under tons of condemnation, she still managed to go to the tyrant. The guy sat in his throne and at first did not even look up at the girl. Anna was a little alarmed by this, but nevertheless she introduced herself to him, and told him quite a lot of information about herself. The guy was still silent, but at least he was already looking at the girl. Also very often some people came up to him and told him something quietly. Probably they warned him that something was wrong with the girl. When Anna saw Alex, she understood why else she could fall in love with him beyond his politeness. This guy was incredibly handsome. You could look into his eyes forever. A cool, handsome man who also seemed very smart at first glance. People came up to the guy again, but already 3 people at once, and they said that the information about this girl was true and that she really wasn't herself right now. If you look at the Duke's face for too long, then all the other men's faces will look like squids. Alex finally spoke up and said that if this young lady wanted to show something very strange, she had better give up the idea, otherwise it could end very badly. Anna noticed Alex's distinct lack of interest in the girl. She didn't like that, of course. Anna began to say that this was her first meeting with the Duke, so she prepared something for him to show him, and began to ask him strongly that he should definitely look at it, as the girl was trying very hard. In spite of all the warnings, Alex agreed to see what the girl had prepared for him, which made her very happy. But beforehand Herzog said if the girl had prepared a poem for him, he would not be surprised. The girl can't wait to start, and see how long the guy can remain indifferent. Anna warned that it would be a magical element. The color of this dark dress would change to a dazzling red, so did not forget to wish happy birthday, His Majesty the Emperor. Then the girl poured herself a glass of red wine. The Duke was looking at it, and didn't understand what was going on at all, while Anna was enjoying the aroma of the wine to the full, for it was now right on her. Then said the Duke turned his attention to her dress, for it was almost completely dyed bright red. The guests who saw this were simply shocked at how one could behave this way in front of a Duke. She picked up and poured herself a glass of wine. When the girl saw the Duke's zero reaction, she asked if that didn't look cool. The guy, to put it mildly, didn't even know what to answer her on that. If people had had the right to choose, no one would have congratulated this man on his birthday. But since it was impossible not to congratulate him, people said a lot of beautiful words, but the problem was that they were all lies, and their real thoughts remained only in their heads. So the Duke asked Anna not to say anything to him. The most important thing for him was to hear a sincere congratulation from the performer of the main female role. It was from this congratulation that he would be very pleased. After her speech, Anna started laughing out loud and shouted birthday greetings for Alex. You should have seen the look on his face. Probably no one had ever congratulated him like that before. The guests also noticed that the Duke was definitely up to something, so they weren't much afraid of it. Alex's first impression of Anna was bad indeed. He immediately called Duke to him and told him that the young lady's condition was bad and unhealthy. Why don't they pack up and go see how things were going at their mansion? Duke was very upset that now he would have to leave the feast and go at the Duke's behest. But in spite of this, he went and took Anna with him. The girl continued to pretend that she did not understand what was happening and why she was being dragged out. Despite the fact that Alex looked at Anna as if he wanted to take her life, he was still unlikely to be handsome. It was the first time the Duke had ever met such a strange girl. Everything seemed to be going according to Anna's plan, but she didn't yet know if she would be able to get notice of the breakup of the engagement or not. So she also decided to send Alex an air kiss goodbye. The guy was very surprised when he got it. Anyway, it wasn't over and it was just beginning. Anna was eagerly chewing when Alex was ready to break the contract. Meanwhile, Duke and Anna were on their way home in the carriage. The guy fist-pumped hard again and said that the girl was really crazy. He was very upset that he had to leave this huge celebration, and called the situation a great shame in the history of their family. The girl, in turn, looked out the window and chatted to herself. She fervently said that it would be a good day. Duke stopped shouting loudly. Then her brother asked Anna how much she had drunk, for she smelled very much of alcoholic beverages. The girl just said she looked good in all the red and went to hug her brother, but he pushed her away. Then the Duchess joined in the conversation and said she would call the counselor. Everyone in that carriage needed to know about it. Anna immediately asked what purpose the Duchess wanted to make the call. The woman replied that they needed to find a doctor urgently who could help cure Anna, because what is happening now looks very bad. Anna made a surprised look. Everything is going according to plan. At this rate the marriage will definitely be ruined. By the way, Anna had heard that Alex adores red liquid, so she gave him such a special gift. The final step was to make a very hurt look and cry quietly. On the way home, his brother apparently understood why Anna had made this whole spectacle today. Since Alex loves everything red, it was this color that the girl was accentuating. It seemed to him that in such a ridiculous way, she wanted to attract Alex's attention. My brother sat down with Anna and asked if you would lose your life if you continued at this rate. The girl replied that it could not be. With a frantic look, she began to say that the next time she would come to Alex, she would get some of his hair. These words made her brother very worried, and asked why the girl was going to do that. Anna replied that Alex's hair would make her happy. She would put her hair on her pillow and sleep with it until her wedding day. Her brother replied that the girl was really out of it and needed help as soon as possible. Anna hoped she hadn't gotten too much into the role, for she didn't want to scare her brother too much. He was a very important person to her. Meanwhile, the carriage had already arrived at the castle grounds. The workers could not understand what had happened and why they had returned home at such an early hour. They were already beginning to guess that some unpleasant incident had probably happened to Anna. When Anna ran into the house, she almost kicked one of the men. The guy immediately tried to stop the girl, but he failed. She was running too fast. Then he told her to call the senator immediately, because Anna was no longer normal. Because of Anna, everyone in the house was in a bad mood. People didn't know how they could help her now. While the family was still riding in the carriage, her brother asked Anna what she would do if she did pass away, a rather strange question. The Duchess said that she hated funerals, so it wouldn't happen. In the middle of the woods the carriage stopped and Izar was asked to get out of it, and when he got out he was called a freak and left in the middle of the woods. The boy could not believe what had happened. Now before she spoke, Anna always raised her hand to be given the right to speak. The girl reminded her that she was Alex's fiancée, so everyone should be more gentle with her, otherwise she knows where to turn. The girl pointed her finger at her body, and said that no one had the right to leave any wounds here, otherwise it would be hard on everyone later. This whole situation made the Duchess feel very bad. The weather outside was just fine, the sun was shining, the birds were singing. The girl sat down to write a letter for the Duke. She hoped that their relationship would continue in this format until the end of their marriage. But it still had to be decided as soon as possible when they would meet. In the original story, the Emperor and his bride were supposed to meet a certain number of times a month. Looking at it from another angle, this relationship could safely be called open, because no one belonged to anyone, it was allowed to do anything, to both parties. The girl did not want to seem too irritable, so she asked for a date and place for her first date with His Majesty. The most important thing is to show crazy things in moderation and consistently, so as not to scare people off before their time. This tactic would be perfect for fooling the tyrant. I wonder how soon the girl will get an answer to her letter. If the answer came right on schedule, then yesterday's performance was not enough, and she could continue to play the crazy girl. Then the girl called Lucy and asked her to bring Anna's ledger. When Anna's mother passed away, she was supposed to inherit something. The possessions were not much, but because they were not given to her, the girl tried to stealthily appropriate them for herself. In order to get to good people who would help her, she needed good money, which was not much. They had to give it all, that at least try to get results. Then Lucy brought tea and delicious cookies for Anna so she could finally eat a little, which made the girl very happy and she thanked her. Lucy was shocked that she was thanked for her work, because Anna had never done that before. She felt so uncomfortable that Anna decided to say thank you again. Lucy didn't even know what to say in such cases, so she quickly went out and asked to be called if she needed anything. Tea was good, but it was necessary to continue to think how to solve the current problems. There was not much money in hand. This sum would not be enough to escape from the Duke and live on their own in prosperity. Fortunately, the girl knew how she could make a great fortune without the name of big money with her. It is a safe zone, or to be precise, it is a deserted land called the Cradle. It is an abandoned land, because magic does not work there directly. It's even hard to believe that this land was really abandoned by humans, although you could just try to find the right approach to it. The fairies who were hiding in the safe zone were very fond of the main character. If you try to get good recognition from the fairies, you can get very good resources. For example, one could get even the most expensive treasure in the world called a fairy stone. If you sold it, you could get a very good amount of money. Lucy asked where Anna was going. The girl replied that she was going to the bank to get some money. Lucy asked her not to do that, but the girl just laughed out loud and started walking faster and faster. Meanwhile, the Duke was feeling very depressed. He finally came home and was able to take off his outer clothing and lie down on the bed. He couldn't stop thinking about Anna. He couldn't forget the prank she had done today and how sincerely she had congratulated him on the holiday. None of the guests could do it as she did. Then his terrible memories from his childhood began to come to his mind. At that moment, Anna remembered the rules that must be observed while communicating with the Emperor. In Alex's presence, you have to think about every word before you say it, if you want to live, but if not, you don't have to. When Anna pretended to be out of her mind, she broke all the rules and stayed alive. Alex felt very bad. He began to remember the nice air kiss Anna had sent him, and he could not stop the flow of these thoughts. The only thing you should often remind yourself when you are with Alex is that you come from a prestigious family, then he will have more interest in talking to you. By the way, it also played a big role in the engagement plan. Despite the fact that Anna behaved this way, Alex did not want to marry her. The investigation revealed that Anna was a woman with a vicious and ruthless heart. It was necessary to think again precisely whether this woman was suitable for the position of Empress. Looking at her profile made Alex think again. His assistant strongly recommended looking at other candidates, because this woman was not only crazy big, but also very young. Alex understood that this information had been gathered from outside sources, and might not correspond to reality entirely. Maybe the girl's insanity seemed too good to the guy and he no longer wants to take her life. As it turns out, the girl is not completely insane, but only partially. Meanwhile, the girl has already received a return letter from the Imperial Palace. The girl got excited and immediately opened it. She really wanted to see their request to break up, but instead of it so was a schedule of monthly meetings. This made her very angry, and she began to squeeze the letter. The girl decided to show them something stronger to make them think again about their choice. Alex was still sitting in his office reading letters as the man he had summoned came to his friend. It was a long-awaited meeting, for this guy had a lot to report for the Duke. He threw a great many papers on his desk, with various information. Even though there was a lot of paperwork, the guy said it wouldn't take too long.